some new faces for this panel. Thank you so much for being here with us. Super stoked to get to have this conversation with Jason and Kamilla and Matt. And I think, yeah, let's get right into it. I would love if we could kind of go across and you could each say a little bit about what you do and your connection to the North.
You want me to start?
Yeah.
Sure. For anybody who doesn't know, my name's Matt Poitras. I'm a local filmmaker here in Sudbury. I'm here to represent the little guy, the DIY, scrappy, do-it-yourself kind of attitude. So, and I just had my screening for my first feature film, The Peninsula, that screened on Thursday.
Two sold-out theaters.
Yeah. So that's me.
Amazing. Very humble. We'll get into your screening later on.
I'm Kamilla, for those of you I don't know. I'm an actor and producer. I have been born and raised in Sudbury, and it's been the beginning and growth of my artistry has been living here. I now live in Toronto, but I come back very often. I've done a lot of work here, and this year I had an untitled home invasion romance and a short called Serenity premiere.
Amazing. And Jason, how about you?
I don't know. Sometimes I'm just crafting catering on the films, but I produce
a multi-hyphenate.
Exactly. I produce feature-length films all around the world, and when I'm lucky, I get to do it here in Sudbury at home.
Amazing. And you've been here for over 15 years, correct?
I moved here in 2009.
Amazing.
A drunken Cinefest night in 2008 led to me moving here in 2009. There you go. That's a good way to say it.
I mean, I kind of want to hear about that. We'll save that to the end. Yeah, I would love to know, and for those of you I haven't met yet, I'm an actor, writer, producer, director with my production company, GTE, and we primarily focus on scripted features and branded content. So, and I'm very happy to be here in Sudbury. So, what's some of the hallmarks of the stories you tell that are really tied to Sudbury? What do you think are, the key things to think about when bringing your film here, or thinking about not just bringing your film here for the incentives, but how do we create stories that arise from the North? Jason, do you want to take this?
Not all the films that we make are set in Sudbury, so it's always great to find a film that the storyline is set in Northern Ontario. But we, I don't know. What was the question again?
That's okay. I would love to know, about what are some of the things that you think about when you bring your film up here, or you're going to create a film that, raises a storyline that's just in
I'm just
Sudbury,
always trying to
or?
bring films home is what it is. Yeah. And so Sudbury is home for me, and so I want to be able to create and make films, with my friends and family and the community in which we live in. And so I try as hard as I can to put that square peg into the circular hole sometimes. Be like, no, we can make, Sudbury look for England. That's fine, We'll do a set extension, and like the Rockies, not a problem. So we'll be in the valley. Misleading, I know, but we're going to put mountains in the back, and so.
But it's possible.
Correct. And so with VFX and so on and so forth, we're always trying to adapt. So as a producer, we're trying to do a variety of things, and one of those is finance the films. And so with the generous grants from NOHFC, you obviously get that coming up. There's great technicians and so on and so forth. You just don't want to be, competing against SkyMed and 4 other feature films when you're making a film. But when timing allows and structure allows financially, then you're able to come and play make-believe here at home.
Which is very special.
Yeah.
And Kamilla, how about you, both as an actor and producer? How, what are some of the things that you think about when you get to work here in Sudbury and in the North?
I think what initially comes to mind when I think of, getting ready for a project here, or, looking into what is possible here, there is an inherent excitement. I think cast and crew in the North, and just generally in this industry, we show up at 110% because we feel we have to, and we have to prove ourselves. And now that we are expanding and doing that, there is always a really malleable aspect to us where we make things happen. We know what we want, and we work together so interdependently to achieve that result. And I think, with Jason saying, how can we take something so ambitious and make it possible, is something that has been really wonderful to see that growth. From when I started my first project I ever booked was with Carly Stone, who Jason's worked with quite a bit. And it was just a proof of concept little project. And I was able to film that here, and then, years later, work with her again on a feature, which is just such a full circle moment that was only made possible through coming up with these people.
Amazing. And Matt, you wrote quite the love letter to Northern Ontario, so I would love to know, with your film, The Bruce Peninsula, how Sudbury tied in.
For sure, yeah. I haven't had the opportunity to make other films to bring them to Sudbury, but
Not yet.
It'll come. But yeah, Sudbury's always been my home, and from the beginning, I wanted to just write what I had around me, and like they always say, play to your strengths when you're making a film, and I know the way of the land, I know all the locations, and I knew that I could film a lot of this stuff for free and for cheap, so it was it was kind of a no-brainer, and there was no question. I might as well just shoot in my own backyard pretty much and use everybody around me.
Amazing. A great way to create and to collaborate and to, look at the resources we have and see what we can do with them. Kamilla, I would love to talk about Serenity, the short that you have here that you acted and produced. You have some very special women in your life. I would love to chat a little bit about your grandmother, Josephine, and the connection, how grief has played a role in your process, both as an on-screen performer and behind the scenes. So yeah, let's hear it.
Absolutely. So for those of you who don't know, Serenity, the short that premiered, really centers around connection between people, loss and grief, as my character Zoe loses her mother working at a funeral home and has to help a woman who's just lost her daughter, and the ways that we kind of find ourselves within each other. So as somebody that grew up here, I come from an immigrant family on both sides. So there's a definite pride and strength in my family and coming from Sudbury. So I've lost both my grandmothers, who I was very, very close to, and I have a very close relationship with my mother. So when this project presented itself to me, there was a real intimacy and interest for me because it really reminded me of those women that lifted me up when I was growing up, and living in the Polish neighborhood and getting to walk around and chat with people that knew my babcia and my dziadek. And there's something really, really special about that for me. And it's allowed me to grow as an artist because as much as, training and everything is great, life is really what prepares you to be an artist and can expand you. So those little glimmering moments of grief or discomfort, I, look at that as, there's cracks in everything, but as Cohen said, that's how the light gets in, right? So it's been very healing and very, a very just intimate, lovely experience to kind of call back to the people that created me and lifted me to where I am.
Which is so beautiful, and I mean, I think it's really cool. Your grandma came here to Sudbury specifically, and that's like the start of your family, and to get to tie that back is really, really unique. And kind of talking about moving different places for your work or for your life, Jason, I would really love to get your take on, this perception that people have that you have to leave, maybe like leave your hometown in order to do something or to create, and that oftentimes is just not true. You are producing massive movies with huge stars. And you're here at home. Like, you get to do all these cool things and then go home, which is amazing. And so what would you say to anyone who is kind of wanting to follow your trajectory or follow your path of how you're able to have the balance of living at home and having, your life here, but also producing massive films? I'm excited for this answer.
I think
I feel like you looked it and found it somewhere.
You can have it all.
What happens is, I don't think there is such a thing as balance in what we do in the creatives. I think, you just follow your passions and you feel fulfilled, or you try to as much as we can. And I don't think we're ever really satisfied with the project, but you're like, it's as good as it's gonna fucking get. Pardon my language. You're like, I got another one, I gotta go. Yeah. Thank you very much, it's been a blast. To talk about, where are we going and the privileges to be able to make films at home, I think that there's a lot of unspoken heroes about how we got here. Like, how did we get here? And there's, a certain gentleman like Mark Palumbo who's here, who is an incredible advocate for the filmmaking. Before anybody was talking about making films, Two Men in a Broom came up and he's like, I think we can do something here. And put his time, energy, and personal funds to be able to start lobbying the government. And that started the momentum in this ball rolling. And now we all get to, profit from the industry and this momentum that was created. And to see it now, 2006, Mark, 2007, like, when did MFM start? 2000, right? So 25 years into this push and desire to have the arts and tell these stories is great. And now you have people, I mean, you know, I've been here for 16 years, you know, like you're here, you're able to move, you're able to come back, you're starting your career. The fact that Cinefest is in its 37th year, what an incredible cultural event in the community, to have over, what, 30,000 people, right, come within a population of 165,000. Like, TIFF doesn't do these numbers.
For
and
sure.
So to now be able to tell our stories and do it, I think, is an incredible privilege. This is an extremely long-winded answer to this. Making films at home, making films, period, is difficult. Yeah. To be able to do it with friends and family, or just collaborators that you enjoy beyond just going to work and punching in and punching out. We're away from our families, they're long days, stressful moments. So to be able to do it with people that you enjoy is an incredible benefit, and I think oftentimes overlooked, and I find translates to screen. And so I think that Northern Ontario has an incredible community, and I think that translates. So in 2015, we went to Cannes, and there was 3 films at Cannes, and 2 of them for Northern Ontario, Mean Dreams and 2 Lovers and a Bear.
Amazing.
Which is incredible, as an example. So you see, you know, on a world scale, you see these films, and why was it? I think there's just something magical in the air that year, and so.
Well, absolutely, and there's undeniable talent. There's so many, you know, wonderful people here, like Clayton Drake, who's also, you know, making these films happen and making these projects come to life, you know, and being a good guide for producers wanting to come here. I really want to know, though, because for you, you work with a lot of people that are international. So my question to you, for someone who would want to follow that trajectory, are you cold emailing those people, primarily those, you know, the American producers that you meet? Is it from going to festivals like Cannes with your other projects and networking? I think building relationships is so important in this industry, and it can feel really daunting, you know, when someone lives in a different country or they've had these big studio films or whatever, you know, and so, like, are you cold emailing them? Are you just like being cool guy Jason? How's it working?
No. When you approach every project, regardless of the budget, if it be a short film, a concept, or, you know, $1 million film, a $5 million film, or a $40 million film, I think it's just approaching it all with the same energy and dedication to succeed.
But how are you even approaching?
But that's what I'm saying, is that people just notice. You build a network. Rome wasn't built in a day.
But how do you build a network?
You just do it. And so you do something like
I know, hey buddy, I know a magician never reveals his tricks.
No, but this is what I'm saying. It's just, I just keep making films. I don't take no for an answer. I made my first film for, you know, borrowing $50,000 from my local pot dealer in the community when I was 18 years old, and I hustled it and I turned it around, and you made a film, and then Soda gave me money, this and that. So you have to build that ball. How do you do it? Don't wait for somebody to give you an opportunity. Create an opportunity, I guess, is the best way of saying it. I never waited for somebody to give me a job or an opportunity. I created my opportunities, and I took what I wanted. And so just don't take no for an answer. Just do it. Like Matt Poitras, right, as an example. I want to make a feature film. Well, you know, you're going to need to raise money. I have the money. I'm going to do it. Fantastic. How are you going to do post-production? I don't know. I can't afford an editor. Okay, I'm going to quit my job and take a year to then edit my first feature film. I need to learn software, buy stuff, subsidize my income, be able to do it. And like, oh, what's that going to lead to? You're placing bets on yourself. Totally. There's no better investment than placing bets on yourself. Follow your dreams and aspirations. When I started filmmaking, my first film I traveled the world with, I had 35 millimeter prints. And I traveled the world with 35 millimeter prints. It was just the burgeoning of, you know, non-linear picture editing and going to, you know, digital formats and so on and so forth. So we needed such large teams. You can make content with anything now. So getting out there and doing it, and then utilizing platforms like, you know, Film Freeway and stuff like that to submit to festivals and to do all this stuff, it's never been more accessible. And so just bet on yourself and do it. And you're like, how do you meet all these people? It's circumstances. Yeah. It's just, Rome wasn't built in a day.
And I think also putting yourself out there, coming to things like Cinefest, introducing yourself, you know, I think in a world where we're so connected and we're all on our phones all the time, we're so terrified to talk to each other. And so I think, you know, any chance that you can have, do that. Your next collaborator might be right beside you. And also, if you love someone's work, find a way to contact them and tell them, you know.
Just as one last point, because I'm long-winded. You have to treat everybody on a film set equally, and it's not just the producer, it's not the director, it's the locations guy, it's the security guard, it's the LSP keeping the guard up. You never know who these people will become later on, and it's just being a good human, one. But I think more importantly, it's not necessarily the networking that I've been done, and a lot of people have approached me, because it's not how people talk about you when you're in the room, it's about how people talk about you when you're not in the room. And that's when you operate at the high standards no matter what. It's like, oh, Jason Jallet, oh, I heard, and you fill in the blank. And then people, so you create that network, but it's by showing up and giving 110% consistently. I don't care if you're tired. I'm making a film, and everything you're doing should be put in that film right now when you're doing it. So.
Absolutely, the dedication required, but also we make movies. We don't save lives a lot of times, right? So I think there's like a responsibility as producers or when you're in leadership positions to make sure that your crew and your team feels safe, they feel supported, they feel like everyone should come to work and feel respected and loved and valued. And I really think that that's so important and leads to better creation anyways. So thank you for answering that. I know I
One last thing. And so
but anyways, Matt. Yes. So hi, you had your world premiere of your very first feature, 2 sold-out theaters, which was crazy. I don't know who was there. Raise of hands. Who's seen Bruce Peninsula? Okay, amazing, awesome. I would just love to know, for you. I mean, I have so many questions, and I know we kind of talked about it during the Q&A, but really, like, what was the most rewarding part of getting to shoot where you live, but also where you grew up, and getting to highlight different areas in the North?
I don't think I would use the word rewarding at all during the filming of it. I think yesterday or on Thursday, that was the part that was rewarding for sure. It's just been kind of a mad journey starting then. It's kind of what Jason was saying. Just like the car kind of drives itself. I never really had a chance to stop until I think I finally just started breathing, like fully on Thursday. I don't think I took a deep breath since we actually shot the film.
Well, I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, me too.
Like,
yeah.
It's a long time to hold your breath.
I almost didn't make it, but we made it happen. But yeah, I mean, just like I said, the car kind of just drives itself. I can't really think back and remember all of like the hardships or anything like that. But it's all kind of a blur. But yeah, I mean, you can't help but not make. If you're this passionate about it, you can't help but not make something. So I can't really speak too much on that.
Well, I think you did. It's the things that you're passionate about, the things that make you want to tell stories. That's so important. And so I'd love to know from each of you. Are there any stories that you're excited to tell that highlight Sudbury? Are you kind of thinking as you move forward, like, oh, and yes, to Sudbury specifically, because obviously that's what our panel is about, but also highlighting the North in general, not just utilizing this as a resource for incentives, but also for true creation. And how do we uplift films like that? So, I don't know if there's a story of like being on the lake and you're like, I really want to have that highlighted in my next project. Like, are there any aspects to the region that highlight your storytelling?
Yeah, definitely. I think my dream film that I really want to do is kind of a half biopic of my childhood, but not so much like selfishly it's my childhood, but a lot of the commonalities that a lot of people my age had, like dirt jumping our bikes behind the church in Garson and that kind of stuff, because it is a very unique lifestyle that we live, and it's a unique pace here in Sudbury. And that is definitely something I want to share. Growing up in the 2000s in Sudbury.
It's amazing too. Sometimes I can't remember who said it, so if someone knows the quote, please let me know. But sometimes the stories that we write that are the most personal to us become the most universal. And I think that's something really special. So when you're thinking of the things you want to write about or the stories you want to tell, what are the things that you feel most connected to, and then build from there. Kamilla, I'd love to hear your thoughts too.
Yeah, I think it's in the same sort of vein as Matt, but with that really unique collective experience we have with such rich culture and nature growing up in Sudbury. I think Matt is beginning to really touch on that with his film this year, but more of this coming of age. We saw it perform so well with My Old Ass, with Megan Park, and having that really situated where it is, letting it live and breathe and be celebrated where it's being filmed. I think
in Muskoka, right?
Yes, I think there's such value in that. And within this multicultural aspect, as I said, coming from an immigrant family and being the kid with the weird smelly food at lunchtime, or, coming to learn that I'm just a steward of this land and the incredible indigenous stories that surround us. I think there's so much untapped magic that we're beginning to mine through, but there's still so much more that we can get to.
I love the way you just most elegantly, beautifully highlighted our panel too. So thank you.
Thank you. That was improv.
Chef's kiss. Jason, how about you? Is there anything in the region that you're really wanting to highlight, projects that you're looking to develop that lend to Sudbury?
Yes, but they're all period pieces with the great history of Sudbury in Northern Ontario, and so there's
Cool.
just high budget stuff, which is longer to develop. But there's Thomas Edison spent time in Sudbury. He spent 9 years here in Falconbridge developing mining techniques and stuff like that at the turn of the century, which is like a world figure. And you're like, huh? And like, there's an interesting thing here that he did. And so when he was here, based on some very basic research, to avoid cave-ins and stuff like that, he came in with a sand and water and stone texture paste to sort of keep everything, in place. And what happened is after he went bankrupt after 9 years here trying to start a mine, he ended up going down to Pennsylvania, and what he was doing with these sand water textures became a pan for cement. And then when cement was incorporated, they started to put steel beams into it, which then was part of the being able to build multi-stories and change New York City. And so when you're like, oh, wait a second, that's an interesting part of world history. Nickel, which is a large export here in Sudbury, is an extraterrestrial metal. It is not a terrestrial metal. And so it's from meteor deposits billions of years ago. There's 3 deposits on Earth. There's Sudbury, there's a place in Russia, and there's New Caledonia off the coast of Australia, which is a French island. And so in the Second World War, there is an individual here from the mine, representing the mine, that went to sell nickel as a metal of the future to the British Army. And so when you're fighting an army, you need to stop the industrialization. So how do we stop them building tanks? We can blow up the tanks, but fucking stop fucking pumping these tanks out. Sorry for the party language, by the way. My son's in the other room, so I can swear all fucking day. No. And so anyways, I think there's sort of like a grande séduction, which is like a way of telling the story of this guy going off to sort of sell this non-terrestrial metal of the future, this alien metal that we all sort of have common now with nickel and so on and so forth. And then another story is part of the waterways and stuff like that during the Prohibition. Timmins and Al Capone, there's a big story about Al Capone going to Timmins and bootlegging and stuff like that. So these are all just very world characters that we all know, and I think that there's links to Sudbury that nobody talks about, are not necessarily known, and I think there's a international market appeal for these stories that are very much deep-rooted into our history.
Stephen Hawking too, right? If I'm not mistaken. He's been coming here for the
Well, he's been
lab.
coming for the snow lab and stuff like that, 100%. Like, anyways, we can go on for hours. I really enjoy the history of Sudbury and why is there a military zone in North Bay? So when everybody found out that there was nickel and we were providing all that stuff, people wanted to bomb Sudbury, but you can't militarize and bring nuclear weapons on Canadian soil. So they had ADNEC, so they created a sovereign territory of the United States to have 32 nuclear weapons in North Bay to be able to protect this side of the hemisphere in case Sudbury was going to be bombed during the war. This is crazy shit. Nobody talks about
This
it.
is amazing.
Everybody's like, oh, have you been to the doghouse? I'm like, yes, great chicken wings. Tell me more about the war. Anyways, and so, yeah. So anyways, so these are a few of the stories that we've been trying to develop and stuff like that, but they're larger filmed because of the period piece and the world international aspect of what we're doing.
If I may, I just wanted to jump in on this. I've learned a lot right now. But aside from that, just these stories of what there could be, but also letting that, just kind of seeing, when you're in the industry already, yes, these are things that exist here that maybe people aren't privy to, but even within the industry now, Sudbury has been such a well-oiled machine for so long that even when you say, oh, I'm, developing this or blah, blah, Sudbury, that in itself is now recognized. People know of us and they know how hard we work and how interesting and how powerful and driven we are to tell these stories because they are so unique.
I mean, thank you so much for just sharing the knowledge alone. I think it's so fascinating, the stories that we have no idea occurred in our own backyard, and it's kind of crazy. Al Capone has had such a rich history with Canada. I was driving through Moose Jaw. I don't know if anyone's ever been there, and all the tunnels and the murals. I was like, what is happening? But I think it's really important to, especially as a producer, to go out and seek that material. I think people oftentimes think that falls to the writer or the director, but I think also as producers to develop IP is so, so, so important. So thank you for doing that, and I want to see it. So.
Just a lot of money to put these
Hurry
together,
up.
but no,
Yeah,
but it's one of
hurry
those
up,
things.
we're
No, but
waiting.
I think these are just characters in world history that everybody knows, and you're like, oh, okay, I can get behind an Al Capone movie in Timmins. you know?
Homicide is
Fucking
fun.
badass,
100%.
right? So,
Absolutely. And I want to just remind everyone about scanning if you have a question. So if you have a question, please scan, and we'll start the Q&A in a little bit. I mean, I also would just love to kind of touch upon, how do you talk to your fellow community and collaborators about Sudbury, about the North? I know that I think especially I grew up in Toronto, and there's this whole idea and mentality that if you are going to come up here, it's primarily for the incentives. And I know we briefly touched on that in the beginning of the panel, but I think what are some of the things that you say to your collaborators about coming up here? Is it also the incredible locations and obviously the very talented crew, both above and below the line that are here? What are some of the things that you do to enlighten people about coming up here to create?
I think on my end, I know Jason touched on this a little bit, but just for lack of better words, there's a really universal no asshole policy in Sudbury.
It's a great policy.
It's, you're working with kind, incredible people that want to be there and want to work with you. And it's funny for me, as soon as I had moved to Toronto, the first job that I had booked afterwards brought me back home. So I think there's...
Which was that?
That was for Untitled Home Invasion Romance, yeah. So I think there's, and aside from that, there's just such, and I'll say it again, it's a well-oiled machine. Letterkenny, for instance, I started that job when I was 16, wrapped when I was 24, and we did 25-page days. And that, I know that doesn't even sound possible, but it was. And
just to put into perspective for those that don't understand, on a large format film, you do 1 or 2 pages a day. On a standard television series, you do anywhere between 8 and 12, but 25 is really unheard of.
When I worked on Priscilla for Sofia Coppola, I looked at my call sheet and I thought there was something wrong because it was 1 7/8 of a page for the entire day. And I mean, obviously that in itself, my example with Letterkenny is quite a unicorn, but that is just what you get when you work here. You have all of these people that, come to support each other and know each other and want to see each other do well. We lift each other up and we root for each other. And I think that's something really valuable that is necessary in coming here to work. That, I mean, of course you have that in other places, but it's palpable here. You can tell people really, really love what they're doing.
It's literally the word you just stole, was palpable. It's not something that I find that we need to communicate too much when we're talking to people who are outside of Sudbury. It's kind of just an energy that you pick up on, and I'm not sure how it is anywhere else in the world, but apparently they're not very used to it. But it's it's contagious. It's like we were just at TIFF for the CION Northern Ontario breakfast, and everybody we met there was just like, we actually casted a lead who was in what's the film that you were just in, Untitled Home Invasion Romance, and he was very taken aback by the energy that we had, and he's been addicted to Sudbury. We've been talking to him over the weekend, and he loves it up here. But yeah, it's a unique energy that we have in Sudbury. We're super scrappy. We're always punching above our weight, and I think they can just see that in us, and it's not something that we need to communicate to them.
For anyone here who's looking to start their creative journey, what's something that you would say? Any words of advice before we go into our Q&A?
Just do it. Just do it. Yeah, you gotta get in the game, and even if it's bad, you're gonna learn lessons. I did my film anticipating it to be bad, and I had no.
You can't anticipate your work's gonna be bad.
Well, I was ready for anything, Yeah.
We're all our own worst critic. I think.
Yeah.
Sorry, repeat what am I?
For anyone who's getting ready to start their
Right.
creative journeys, what's some advice you'd give?
Jason already said it, but just start. Don't wait for your opportunity. Make your own opportunity. You'll be waiting forever if you want somebody to stand in your corner. You're there, you're fully formed, and you can be in your own corner and be your own champion, and the rest will follow. When you are interested and passionate, you find like-minded individuals, you find your people and community, and that's where the magic really begins. So if not now, when? Be your own champion.
I think that's a beautiful note to wrap up on. Or Jason.
I was just going to repeat, go do it again, but in a deeper voice. Do it. Do it.
Do it. Open the heart. Just do it.
Do it.
We love. Thank you.
But I mean, in more specifically how to do it, right? Is, you know, a lot of people don't know where to start or what should I write, but literally just write what you have available that's around you. You know, like your mom works in a liquor store or something, or she owns it. It's like, write a story about that. Like, or you have a dog, write a movie about your dog.
Shoot in your apartment, shoot in your kitchen, shoot in your backyard.
And I
But yes, don't write a lawyer drama. If you're a high school student that goes to new fucking, you know.
And that has like 35 cast mandatory and 170,000 million quadrillion background performers.
Yeah, I do have another thing to jump on there, and I think it is, you know, the idea of festivals, summits, connection, network. It can all be icky and daunting and weird, but there's always something so obvious about just earnest passion and being really invested in what you're doing and being able to connect with other people and just saying, hey, you know, seeing them human to human, and I love what you're doing and I want to be, you know, this is what I'm working on, and being able to grow those relationships. And they do happen very randomly and sporadically and in ways you would never imagine. So by being able to show up, that is your first step.
Totally. Go for it, show up, you know, just do the best with what you have and take a chance. So with that, I'd love to jump into Q&A too.
Sure. The first one is a comment. I do want to read it, though. This is from James Roach, co-founder of Lab Realms Productions. Your live feed is coming in great all the way here in the Philippines, so I think that's a compliment for Rob.
Cool.
Well done.
Hello, Philippines.
Salamat.
Yay.
So how do you think Canada can become a more prosperous industry, film industry, that raises up its own directors and films and isn't just a hub for the States? What can we be doing, not just as Northern Ontario, I think, but as Canada, to uplift these things?
Bet on Canadians. You know, I think we uplift and up-level our stories and really celebrate the people that we have. But I'd love to hear your guys' opinion too.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I actually used to be super, like, thinking in that way. I was super anti-union and anti all these grants and the system we have set up. But then once I actually did the film, I kind of realized, oh, there's actually nothing stopping us, like, at all. You know, we actually have a lot of advantages, especially in the north. You know, and you can just, we have a lot of, all the advantages of, you know, community. All the locations are super cool. You can, you know, a lot of times it's better to have no money than some money if you're working in a really small budget. And yeah, there really is nothing stopping you. It's only a benefit having, you know, the NOHFC and all, being a quote unquote hub for American stuff. It's everybody around you is super trained, it's super well experienced, it's super connected. Yeah. So just kind of, I mean, I don't know how we would change it or if we need to change it, but just play the game while it's this. You know, we're not going to change the system overnight. So in the meantime, just play the game. You know, make your film, and just assert yourself in the scene, I suppose.
Interesting. All right, Kamilla, do you have anything to say to that?
Just a little bit. I think it's something. I think we're getting there. I think we are growing it. I think we're on our way. We're definitely not foreign to the idea of connexploitation. We've been seeing it since 80s slashers, but. We're getting to a point where we are allowing these stories to be where they are, and being more loud about Canada. So I think we are on our way, and it's just it's through Cinefest, it's through these incredible festivals and connecting with people and being part of the film community and the industry. I think it's a work in progress.
Work in progress, but also a huge shout out to Cinefest and CION, but also for Cinefest for programming such an incredible independent films from Canadians by Canadians, highlighting true Canadian stories where Canada plays as Canada, not as New York or Chicago or anywhere else.
Exactly.
How about you? I think you got some thoughts.
I don't agree with the language that was used in the question, because it seems like it's a competition, and I think these can live in parallel and in harmony. Utilizing other people's money to train and keep lights open and train people and create opportunities to then make our own films, I think, is essential. So I think it's just a matter of not overshadowing one another. I think they live in harmony with one. Like, I love to have people be like, oh, I made this Canadian film and I had this rigger on board, and I was like, oh, are you qualified? He's just, I just did rigging for Mission Impossible. I think I'm qualified. Fantastic. Yeah. I feel very comfortable.
I feel
very comfortable you hanging Nicolas Cage off the railing for me, so it's over. And so, I think the question was sort of skewed in a negative light, like, when are we going to outshine it? I don't think it's an outshining. It's like, thank you very much for your $1 billion, Hollywood. Yeah. The economic development and drivers and all this stuff. Yeah. And then to be able to continue to in parallel. And so Telefilm Canada, all of these grants and subsidies that we get are essential to what it is. Because if you look at other territories, so these co-production states and stuff around the world, most people have cultural agencies within their government to help subsidize. China doesn't, India doesn't, the United States doesn't, but everybody else does. And so we have a very strong establishment compared to what other people are trying to build. So other people, you know, in like Romania, I was recently in Romania, and they're like, hey, we're trying to get more US productions here to train our people, get infrastructure, develop it, and to have that, you know, role to be able to do it. And so, sorry to be contradicting to what it is, but I think that we're doing a great job, and we should continue what we're doing.
I don't
Not
think it's.
trying-
Oh, sorry.
Just not trying to be anything that we're not, right?
It's just,
I think so. I think I am very grateful that you brought that up, and I think it's great to be contradictory. I think we do. What I would like to see also as a producer is a change at an executive level for what we're developing, the stories that we're searching for, because I wholeheartedly agree with you. It's absolutely phenomenal that the U.S. and other countries come here for our incentives. People get trained, people get opportunities. You know, we have Taza Decker from ACTRA. There's people that are, you know, coming and getting their first permit so they can join the unions, they can grow their careers. There's all of these really wonderful things that happen when people come shoot their movies here and their projects here, specifically Americans. But I think that we do, you know, we need a change. We need to be, as viewers and as audiences and as creators and collaborators, you know, demanding that we see stories that are coming out of our country and we watch them. Like, we need to watch the stuff that gets made here, and we need to support it, and we need to uplift it.
I just want to sort of, that point to what you just said, we need to watch it.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. We need to watch Canadian content. And we don't want to say, when you say something's Canadian, and often air quotes are used, it's a negative comment about the project.
Totally.
And you're just like, no, there's great content happening here. And we share a dialect with the US, and so we get lost in that. Like the Irish community, you want to see in your own accent and your own dialect. Quebec, there's a distribution model that is foreign to anybody else because Quebecois want to hear their accent. And so in Canada, when you say it's Canadian and you use these air quotes, it's a bit offensive.
It is.
And you're like, no, I made a whole bunch of shit that you didn't know was Canadian. And so what we can do as individuals, I think that we're able to guide the industry, and unfortunately that means that what are we spending our time with? Viewing. So, you know, all the Matrix on Netflix and all this stuff, but also where you spend your money. Go to the movie theaters. Don't go watch the, you know, Marvel, like Mission Impossible 36. Go watch a film that, you know, and just go do it. Support. So support it with your cash, because we need your goddamn money.
And I think the answer also lies kind of like in between what you guys are saying. It's like, I think it's a mix of like changing our sensibilities, but also, yeah, not being so cynical about being like whatever the question was, like overtaken and whatnot. You know, I think like Matt Johnson's Blackberry is like a perfect example of what if every, obviously there's tons of room for inclusive films as well, but like if most Canadian films were kind of like Matt Johnson's Blackberry, you know, it's a Canadian story with Canadian values. It's a great entertaining, like, I think that's like a super good bet. And you know, if a lot more films were coming out like that, I think we would have a really healthy system of people who are genuinely wanting to go see the movies. Yeah.
What happens is, when we're talking about a good performance or a good thing, what is the quantitative of success? And if it's box office, or if it's praise, or if it's critical acclaim, or whatever that is. And so once we can define what success is, then we can work backwards. But I think a lot of people don't agree on the terminology.
I think it's like Canadian pride. You know, something that's like a Canadian story. That's yeah.
And needing to watch it, I think, you know, being able to better define the metrics of success is really, really important, and a key factor to deciding how we move forward, what gets made next. So thank you. Do we have time for one more question?
Oh yeah, we got about 10 minutes. After completing your film in Northern Ontario, how do you generate profits in terms of distribution? I think there's a question of how do you start engaging with distributors?
I have no idea. I'm figuring that out right now.
Do you want to take that first?
Sure.
I have thoughts too. Okay.
There's no set rule. There's no formula that works for every film. Everything is very bespoke, I find.
Also, very sorry. Everyone is clear on what a distributor is for their film moving forward.
It's the guy that pulls focus on. No.
No.
It's
Just want to make sure we're clear on the
exploit,
terminology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the question is how do you find a distributor? Oftentimes, we're able to attach distributors prior to principal photography in situations where, you know, like Matt, you're able to make a film without a distribution model. Then you get it going. Then you, like, you know, there's 5 distributors in Canada, so that's how you get Canadian distribution. And then in the U.S., you'd have to find a seller, and so you'd have to find somebody that's going to go and sell it for you, and then takes the majority of the money, but at least your film gets out there.
A sales
And
agent.
So a sales agent, correct. And there's a list, but this is, I guess, where you get into go find the film that your film looks like, and it's sort of, and be like, who distributed that? Great, call these people because they're in the market. What you don't want to do is be like, hey, I have this super cool indie horror film, and you go see the people that sell the Marvel films. It's not that market. When you walk into a Louis Vuitton store, you know what you're buying. When you walk into Target, you know what you're buying. And not to say that there's a good or a bad, it's just place in the market.
Totally.
And so go buy a sales agent that sells the films that you're selling.
Yep.
Don't walk into fucking Louis Vuitton trying to buy a goddamn thing. Anyways, and so, yeah.
And in my experience too, I think distributors have been a lot more open to conversations if I haven't met them in ways that other larger production companies haven't been. Working with a sales agent is a really great way to find distribution for your project, to get some international sales, so you get some money for your project, obviously, because you're selling it in different territories around the world. But I am a firm believer in the power of a cold email. If you, whatever stage you're at, obviously do the research and do the work. But if you don't know distributors, well, you got to find a way to meet them, so reach out, email, call, do whatever you have to.
All the emails and all the calls that you've sent, sometimes I'm sure you've sent multiples. Yeah. Sometimes there's a fear of I didn't want to bother somebody. Has anybody ever told you, cease and desist, erase my email, never call me again?
Never.
This is
Never.
what it is.
Follow up. People are busy.
I often get people that'll meet at a party, call me, I sent you an email. It's that day I happened to get 863 emails.
Very
I
specific.
didn't catch your thing. No, but it's just one of these things. I don't want to show you what my inbox is. It's very embarrassing. But follow up. Follow up.
Yeah.
Follow up. Follow up until the point of somebody saying that. And nobody's ever said that. If anything, after the 9th email, I'll usually start with, I'm so sorry, I was just in production, I was just dealing with this, I was just dealing with that. How can I give you the time? But the onus falls onto you. I don't give a shit. I'm busy. You want my attention? Come and take it. Come and grab it. And follow up with me and make me feel guilty, and then we'll go have a coffee and we'll do it up.
But I think it's just it. Whether you feel guilty or not, people are really busy, and there's a million different things going on at any given moment in time. People want to make movies. People want to collaborate. People want you to do well, So, yeah, reach out. Throw spaghetti on the wall.
As for Kamilla, you've worked with the character and crew for so many years. What was it like having such an extended relationship?
It was definitely special and interesting. I mean, as I said, I started Letterkenny at 16, so I was still very much in my awkward, formative teenage years. And now, in retrospect, I think, oh, why did you do it? But I was such a sponge, and I would make a point every day, a different department. What is that? And what are you doing? And why are you doing that? And again, now, no. But at the time, I was lucky to have a really, really incredible group of people that fostered that interest in me. So I think, again, those connections are widespread and extends beyond. One of my castmates, Ganya Dio, had an incredible film come out last year, Seeds, which was also filmed in Northern Ontario. So to be able to see the ways in which we've all grown together and then moved on, but are all still, coming back within this community has been really interesting. I've seen so many of my castmates that don't live here, that have come back to work here. And there's a reason that Jason claims stake here and Letterkenny producers live here now, and there's so many people that find the magic and continue to seek it out, and they just don't leave. So I think it's been a unicorn special experience that I'm very thankful, because it was formative to my artistry from Sudbury, being able to do that here and wake up in my own bed.
Which is such a beautiful thing to get to say and do, and I would love, as we're wrapping up here, if you guys can let people know where they can find you, or, your company name and all of that fun stuff.
We actually have to, just 2 minutes. Do you have
I have to
they,
get, I'm
they
at the
said they would
theater.
extend it for you.
They did? Okay.
Okay,
No one told me that. So I was I'm supposed to teleport somewhere and be there in 3 minutes.
For anyone that doesn't have cell phones in the audience, we've got probably time for 2 audience questions just from the microphone. I know, CJ, one. Are you good? Okay.
I just want to say, really appreciate what you're saying, and then the question about Canada, because I do think we're making great films, and there's great films being made here with, CanCon, and I think also someone was telling me about something called the First Weekend Club.
Yes.
Like you know more about this than I probably, about the algorithms. Like it's timing, and we don't want to just go to Canadian films on Canada Film Day. Sorry, this is less of a question, more of a statement, but I'm just like, reiterating what you said. I really think there's such good films being made, but also as filmmakers, I really feel we have to support each other. Musicians do it, actors do it, but also, filmmakers. We need to rising tide raises all ships and all that. So anyway, I don't know if you have more to add to that, and you would know more about the timing of when stuff comes out and when we should see it. But, yeah.
What a beautiful thing to say also, so thank you. Don't apologize for that. I think that's such a valuable statement and a truth. Making sure that when films come out, you see them within the first weekend, that really dictates the longevity of a film, especially for a theatrical release. I think there's also, I have some things to say about it, but I'd love to hear from our panelists.
This young lady at the door keeps sort of waving us down. Yeah, you? No.
No, we have another question. Oh. We're going to answer this one first, but then we'll answer yours, okay?
Sorry about that. I think it comes back to, yes, watching it as soon as possible, making those numbers work, and we get to vote with our money, and we get to sort of tell everybody what it is. Just click on it. Just on Netflix. Go. Find the Canadian content. Yeah. Get your Crave TV subscription. It's worth the $22. Do it.
Yeah. And I think there's also a mentality, and it's interesting that you brought that up about musicians supporting each other. I relate filmmaking to being in a sport. I was an athlete my whole life, and so if you don't have people to compete against, you don't have a sport. You don't get to do the thing that you love, and some of my best friendships and collaborators now actually came from people that were on other teams. So I think that is a really beautiful point to highlight. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah. Hi everyone, and thank you for the contributions, the panelists. I've learned a whole lot, right? Especially with the influx in Sudbury in recent times, right? I want to understand what's in place or the plans, if it's in place or not, or the future plans for international collaboration. And I'm saying this from the perspective of distribution. And what do I mean? Wearing a different lens here, I've seen, while it is good to produce the high-end movies, sometimes I've seen movies on the internet, even produced with films, and got millions of views. And that tells me something. Beyond value, the viewers are looking at an experience the story left them with. So we prioritize experience and value too. Experience first. People are going through stuffs. Some people would rather speak to an AI app than speak to another human being. I'm saying this because I'm a faith-based film producer. I released my first film in Easter, YouTube. And I got a lot of comments, a lot of positive feedback.
You uploaded your film to YouTube, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Right? And it's based on the fact that I interact with the grassroots, the community a lot. And I get feedbacks, not just from immigrants, from everyone. I mean, people are going through hard times in marriage, people are being indebted, and I'm like, that's not the end of the world. And the story we put out there leaves people with experience while we are trying to produce quality movie. So here's my question. Okay. What's the international collaboration in place such that anyone outside can view the distributors, especially in Asia? Population has a way of driving views and all that. So what's the plan in place, and what's the plan in place for the BIPOC community in terms of film production? Thank you.
I can jump into that. So what happens is regarding international co-productions, and so there's co-production treaties on an international level that you can do with most countries in the world outside of China, India, and the United States. And so there's the federal government works with these foreign entities to be able to come up with agreements. And so there's lots of stuff that you can go find at the Telefilm website for that. And I just want to stop there and say congratulations on just doing it. You made a film and you got it out there. So let's just give a hand of applause to that. And so you had faith in yourself and you just committed to it and you did it. Regarding distribution models, it's what you did. You put it on YouTube. Like, there's no magical sort of app that we don't know, right? And so now people are doing smaller snippets on, now we're going to talk about distribution models and advertising, smaller snippets and sort of reformatting stuff for vertical content to be able to put on TikToks and all this stuff to go get an audience that just sort of vertical integration from multiple platforms leading to your same content. And so getting it seen is one thing, but then monetizing it is another thing. So getting it seen is getting all these clicks and all that stuff and creating a community. And often what that does is allow you to go to funding your next film. And so you utilize your first one, not necessarily to generate revenue, but to create a community to then help fund your second film. And then when you've done the third film, maybe that's when somebody says, hey, look, you have a community of a couple of 100 million people, or 30,000, whatever that might be, that gets it. There's an audience there, and then the business aspect comes in. So you're dealing with the passion aspect of what it is, and once you build a community around that, then you can get the business aspect to sort of believe in what you're doing.
Yeah, and speaking to the BIPOC stuff, I attended the funding panel that was a few days ago, and you should definitely look at all of the major funding places like Telefilm, Ontario Creates and stuff, because there's a lot of special grants for BIPOC people.
They're great resources. Thank you for your question too. And I mean, you were at the panel before. You're already miles ahead of someone who's thinking about doing it because you are doing it. So huge kudos. Are we?
Yep, I think we can wrap it up.
Amazing. So please, where can everyone find you? Can you let us
so
know?
much, everyone. Sorry, go on, Mark.
Can you let us know where we can find you? What's next for your project? And if it's screening again before the end of tomorrow?
My project is...
Well, I know you. What's next for your project?
I'm not sure, but I'm kind of just rubbing shoulders, trying to figure out. I'm just wherever the wind blows with this one. But
and distribution, you're finding distribution too.
Gonna try. If not, I'll probably just self-distribute it. But this is an experiment, right? So I'm figuring it out. But I'm super easy to reach out to if anybody wants to. Matt Poitras on Instagram. Also, I'll be here for the rest of the festival. If you could just please come and say hi.
Amazing, Kamilla.
You can find me on Instagram at Kamilla Kowal. I do have a couple of projects that I have to do the insufferable. I can't talk about them yet. But once I can share, I will make sure to sing it from the rooftops. And otherwise, I'm an actor. I'm open for hire. That's it.
Perfect. We love. And Jason, how about you?
I have a few things on the go. I've been very blessed to be able to travel a lot over the last 5 years, but my son is 6 years old now, and so I've been mandated to be making films back in Canada. And so we have a slate of films, but again, it's a matter of funding and so on and so forth to get going. And I'll be at the event later tonight, so if there's anybody that wants to come talk and sort of converse about the intricacies that we talked about today, I'd love to do that.
He doesn't bite.
Amazing. Please give it up for our panelists one more time, guys. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much, everybody. This is our final panel for Cinema Summit 2025. Thank you so much for coming out. Thank you to our lovely moderators as well, Mariah, Owen, for doing 2 of our panels today. I hope you continue the conversation afterwards. I also want to say a big thank you to Sylvia Dominic and also Jody Weeb. I was part of CION, who've been amazing organizing and putting this thing together. Thanks again to Rob with Points North Media. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the festival and get out to see some films. And final words from Jason.
Just the last note is a hands up to CION and everybody. I mean, without these cultural events and all the hard work that's put into it, we wouldn't gather. I know a lot of people that get lost in the daily hustle, and we see each other. We live down the street, but we see each other at Cinefest every year, right? And so it brings the community together. It also brings people into our community, and we couldn't do it without the hard work of Cinefest, CION, and all the government subsidies and everything. And so thank you very much to everybody.
Thank you.